Christine Sandoval. I needed to talk to someone about this whole thing. I felt like I was going to implode. Head pounding, heart racing, stomach churning. I kept trying to breathe, but could only heave my shoulders up and down in futile attempts to get more than a mouthful of air. I was having a panic attack. I just kept my eyes closed, head leaning against the back of the couch. I closed my mouth and tried to breathe through my nose, imagining I was drawing air up from my tailbone, through my spine, counting 1, 2, 3. Imagining I was in my sanctuary, sitting on my pillow, fireplace before me, hands resting easily on my lap. With each breath, I dropped my shoulders a little bit more, and slowly, I got a hold of myself. My heart was still racing, but it didn't feel like it was going to explode out of my chest. So I slowly opened my eyes and looked at the ceiling. Who could I talk to? Well, it for sure wasn't Bob. Kind, good-natured Bob. I'd made the mistake of trying to talk to him about one personal issue a couple of years ago, and it turned into a 3-hour-long psychoanalysis session, leaving us both frustrated and exhausted, not happy with the conclusion as far as either of us was concerned. No, thanks. I didn't want or need another one of those. Fortunately or otherwise, my parents were dead, and I'd seen my sister once in the past 10 years when we took care of our dad's estate, so family was out. Tony was an absolute no. No way would I try to discuss something like this with my boss. Not only is it a terrible idea to mix work and personal stuff, one very good reason for people to stop complaining about their lives at work. No one wants to hear that crap. But my boss was so hardcore Catholic that he went to Mass every day at lunch, then came back and ate peanuts all afternoon at his desk. It would probably just freak him out. And how on earth would I be able to work with him ever again after something like that? Definitely no. There was only one other person I could call. Chrissy. Christine Sandoval, was my friend from high school. I say my friend not only because I just had one friend in high school, but because I only had one friend from high school that I had any contact with after all these years. She was always a trip, more hippie than anyone I ever met. I'd always told her I wanted to be like her when I grew up, and she would just erupt in gales of laughter every time. She was still living in Billings, Montana, where we'd grown up. She'd inherited her mom's house that had a bit of acreage to it, and she kept inviting me to come visit her there, and I kept telling her, as soon as there's no snow on the ground and no mosquitoes in the air. She asked me once if Houston didn't have as many, or not more, mosquitoes for longer periods of time than Billings, and I said, yep, just without the snow. I like snow about as much as I like the opera. The last time I'd seen Chrissy, she had her waist-long dreadlocks dyed peacock shades of teal, green, and blue, with a bright violet streak here and there. I texted her and asked if she was free for some FaceTime convo, and I saw her call coming in immediately. I took a deep breath and hit connect. I was not surprised when I saw her sporting a new do. Now her hair was about 4 inches long, all gelled or sprayed into spikes of deep blue-black. She was wearing a bright pink off-the-shoulder sweater, eyes heavily lined in black, with neon blue eyeshadow and bright fuchsia lipstick. Well, that's certainly an interesting look, I began, chuckling. Lisa, love, how are you? You look like hell. And she leaned into the phone. What have you been doing? You look like someone punched you in the face, repeatedly. No, I'm fine, really. Haven't gotten a lot of sleep, regular sleep lately. Everything's fine, really, I said. Uh-huh, she answered, nodding her head at me, to tell me she did not believe a word I had just said. I sighed. I called you because I need to talk to someone about some stuff that I've been dealing with, I guess you could say. What's going on? I thought you said you were fine. It isn't Bob, is it? I could hear the quotes around his name, her face almost, but not quite, hiding a sneer. No, I sighed again. Bob is fine. Bob and I are fine. There's nothing wrong with me and Bob. And there's still nothing wrong with Bob, either. Well, what is it then? What's going on, she asked. Another deep breath. Okay, So you know about when I was dreaming about stuff and then it would happen? I saw her head go up and down, so I continued. Right, and then after 9/11, I decided I didn't want those dreams anymore, and they stopped. More head nodding, her hand making go-on motions at the phone. One more deep breath, and then I launched into it. I told Chrissy everything. From the White Room dreams about the lens, to the news stories about the boys, to finding the lens at the thrift store, the trip to the police station downtown, and finally the phone call and appointment to meet with the detective working on the murders. I glanced at her image on my phone periodically, watching her expression change from one of surprise and interest to a scowling frown about the murders, to bigger surprise and finally astonishment. You what? Wow. Give me a second here. I'm having a moment, she says. I laughed and exhaled, settling back into the couch. The worst part, the whole telling everything part, was over, and she was still there on the phone. I shouldn't really have been surprised. Chrissy was who had gotten me started with meditation and alternative religions long ago. I think I was surprised because she was surprised. It made me feel a little bit better knowing someone who was usually so comfortable with all things weird and woo-woo could be caught off guard by all of this too. Chrissy closed her eyes for a moment, then said, "Okay, so you have this lens thing now?" I nodded. "Can you show it to me?" I shrugged and pulled the case out from under the coffee table where I had stashed it, setting it on my lap. I opened the case, pulled the lens out carefully, and held it in front of the phone for her review. "Turn the tourmaline toward me?" I did that, moving it slowly so she could see it from as many angles as possible. "That's the thry piece, the tourmaline," I said, pointing that in towards the phone again. "Cute. Third eye piece equals thry piece. Fascinating. Tell me again how it works?" I tried to explain the process as best I could, ending with an, "Of course, that's all just what I was told by she who sees. I haven't actually tried it out yet." I lowered the lens and looked into Chrissy's eyes, staring back at me solemnly from my phone. "Chrissy, I'm terrified. I really don't want anything to do with this, really, at all." I stopped there. I hadn't really considered it, but now that I'd said it, I knew it to be true. I did not want to be doing this. Any of it. She tilted her head to one side. "It's like the 9/11 dream, isn't it? So much pain and horror, you can't separate yourself from it." I nodded, looking as a tear fell down into my lap. I wiped my face with my sleeve. "This time is different, though. I'm in the middle of it. I can't walk away. I can't go back to my desk and tell it to go away. And you can do something about it. This time." Chrissy looked at me, raising her eyebrows. "That makes it not just different. That makes it important." I sighed and frowned. "I know, that doesn't help, actually." Chrissy laughed. I know, none of that helps. But it all does help, doesn't it?" She smiled at me. "I guess. I just need to figure out how I'm going to handle all this whole thing," I finished, "dealing with cops and medical examiners and those poor little boys." And I burst into tears.